The auction under a broken bell. The desert wind carried dust through the half-dead town of San Paloma, where even the church bell hung crooked, silent, cracked, and useless, like hope itself. Colt Rourke rode in at sundown with a face carved from hard years and harder choices. People recognize him the way you recognize a storm on the horizon. Quiet fear, quick glances, doors closing before the thunder arrives. Outside the saloon, lanterns lit an ugly little stage. A man in a velvet coat, Judge Harlan Crow, smiled like a snake that had learned manners. Ladies and gentlemen, Crow called, "Tonight we settle debts." A line of desperate souls stood below the platform. Ranch hands, widows, a boy barely old enough to shave. Their wrists were tied with rope that looked clean, too clean. Then Colt saw her, a young woman in a faded nun's habit, wrists bound, chin lifted. Bruises darkened her jaw, but her eyes were clear, steady as a candle refusing to die. Crow announced, "Sister Mercy of St. Bridget's. The church can't pay its taxes. Neither can she. So tonight, she works them off." The crowd murmured. Some laughed. Some looked away. Colt's voice cut through it like a match strike. "You sell souls now, Crow? Or just people?" Crow's smile widened. "Mr. Rourke, the famous gunslinger. I wonder when you crawl back from whatever hole spits you out." Sister Mercy spoke for the first time, calm but shaking at the edges. "No one here needs blood." Colt met her gaze. "Sometimes blood's already in the ground. Only thing left is to decide whose hands are clean." Crow lifted a ledger. "Bidding starts at 50. A heavy-set miner shouted, "I'll take the nun. She'll scrub my floor so she learns what prayers are worth." Sister Mercy whispered, almost to herself, "Lord, give me strength." Colt stepped forward. Coins clinked as he tossed the pouch onto the stage. Crow caught it, weighed it, laughed. "Oh, that's sweet, but I'm not selling her to you." Colt's eyes narrowed. "Then you're not selling her at all." Crow leaned close, voice low enough to be poison. "Draw on me, and I'll hang that church bell with your bones. And I'll make sure she watches." The lanterns flickered. The crowd held its breath. Colt's hand hovered near his holster. Sister Mercy's bound fingers tightened around her rosary. Then the rope snapped taut as guards yanked her backward toward a wagon. And as she was dragged away, she looked straight at Colt and said, with a courage that hurt to hear, "If you save me with violence, what will it make you?" Colt didn't answer, because the sound of a rifle cocking behind him stole every word from his mouth. The nun who would not bow. A rifle barrel pressed into Colt's spine. The man holding it smelled like sweat and cheap whiskey. "Move an inch, Rourke," the guard hissed, "and I'll paint the dirt with you." Colt slowly raised his hands, eyes fixed on the wagon rolling away. Sister Mercy sat inside it like a captive saint, wrist bound, habit tore at the sleeve. Her lips moved in silent prayer. Not for herself, it seemed, but for everyone who had become used to watching cruelty, like it was entertainment. Crow stepped down from the stage, brushing dust from his coat. "You always did love grand entrances, Colt, but this town belongs to law now. My law." Colt's voice stayed steady. "Law don't chain nuns." Crow chuckled. "You think she's a nun because she wears cloth? She's a debt, a tax, a lesson." Sister Mercy called out from the wagon, "Judge Crow, the church fed your mother when she had nothing." Crow's eyes flashed, anger, then cold control. "And now the church will learn gratitude." Colt turned his head just enough to speak without looking weak. "Let her go." Crow stepped closer. "You know what I see when I look at you, Rourke? A man pretending he's already damned, so he doesn't have to try being good." Sister Mercy's gaze sharpened. "No one is beyond grace." Crow waved 2 fingers. The rifle behind Colt nudged harder. "Grace doesn't pay taxes." Colt swallowed. The old instinct screamed, draw, shoot, survive. But he could feel her eyes on him, judging him with something heavier than fear. The wagon rolled toward the mine road, where the earth opened like a wound. Colt spoke to Sister Mercy, voice rough. "What's your real name?" She hesitated, then answered like honesty was a vow. "Elena." Crow smirked. "Elena." Sister Mercy, whatever title makes you feel pure. By morning, you'll be scrubbing my men's boots and learning how loud prayers sound when nobody answers. Elena lifted her bound hands. God answers, even when men pretend not to hear. Colt let out a humorless breath. You still believe that after tonight? Elena's voice broke just a little. Belief isn't a reward for an easy life. It's a choice. Crow signaled again. The rifleman's finger tightened. Colt made his choice. He stomped the guard's boot heel, hard. The guard yelped. Colt spun, grabbed the rifle barrel, and yanked it sideways. The shot exploded into the dirt. People screamed. Crow's men raised guns. Colt didn't draw. He stepped back, hands up like a man surrendering. Crow laughed. You'll die for nothing. Colt stared after the wagon. Not nothing. Elena shouted, Colt don't. Crow leaned in. I'll give you a fair deal. Walk away. Leave her, and I'll let you keep breathing. Colt's jaw tightened. He could walk away. He'd done it before. That's how he stayed alive. But Elena's words haunted him. Belief is a choice. Colt looked at Crow and said, You ever wonder why that church bell broke? Crow frowned. What? Colt's eyes turned to the silent church tower. Because too many people stopped ringing it. Then Colt turned and walked straight toward the mine road, unarmed, exposed, and hunted. Behind him, Crow's voice thundered, Bring me his head! And up ahead, the wagon carrying Elena disappeared into the dark, where the mine swallowed light like a mouth closing. The mine that ate prayers. The mine entrance loomed like a black throat. Torches burned outside it, turning faces into masks. Men laughed too loudly, the way people do when they're trying to convince themselves they're not afraid of what they become. Colt slipped between boulders, moving with the quiet patience of a man who had survived by listening more than shooting. He heard Elena's voice before he saw her. You can't own what belongs to God, she said, firm despite exhaustion. A man barked a laugh. God ain't down here, sister. Colt peeked around a timber post. Elena stood in a makeshift yard, surrounded by miners. Her hands were no longer bound, but a chain circled her ankle, thick iron, bolted to a stake. She held a bucket of water like it was a shield. A foreman with a scarred cheek stepped close. Crow says you're to work until the debt's done, or until you break, whichever's quicker. Elena's voice softened, not with surrender, but with heartbreak. You don't have to do this. You don't have to be his hands. The foreman's eyes flickered. For a second, something human surfaced. Then he spat. Human don't feed a family. Money does. Colt watched that moment. The exact moment a man buried his conscience alive. He moved. A stone sailed from the shadows and struck the lantern's stand. Glass shattered. Flame hissed and flared. Darkness rushed in. Shouts. Panic. Boots pounding. Colt stepped out behind Elena, like a shadow, becoming solid. He whispered, Elena, don't scream. She froze, then turned slowly. Her eyes widened. You came? She breathed, like she hadn't allowed herself to hope. Colt's face didn't soften, but his voice did. Couldn't leave the bell broken. Elena's gaze dropped to his empty hands. You're unarmed. I'm not helpless, Colt said. A minor lunge. Colt sidestepped, grabbed the man's wrist, and twisted. A knife clattered to the dirt. Colt caught it before it fell fully. Elena whispered, Please don't kill. Colt held the knife, breathing hard. Sometimes a man only understands the language he's spoken. Elena's eyes shone with fierce grief. Then teach him a new one. Colt hesitated, like her words had grabbed him by the throat. More men rushed in. Colt shoved a knife into a post instead of a man. I'm here for her, Colt shouted. Not for slaughter. The foreman's voice came from the dark. Crow wants you alive, Rourke. Says he's got plans. Elena tugged at her ankle chain. The key. Colt scanned the shadows. A ring of keys jingled at the foreman's belt. Colt advanced, slow and measured. Don't. Elena warned. He'll shoot. Colt stepped anyway. The foreman drew a pistol. One more step, and I put you in the ground. Colt stopped. You got kids. The foreman blinked. What? You got kids, Colt repeated, voice low. And you're teaching them this is how a man survives, by chaining women and calling it work. The foreman's hand shook. Elena spoke softly like prayer. You can still choose. For a heartbeat, the yard held still. Then a gunshot cracked, loud final. Elena gasped and clutched her side. Red seeped through her habit. Colt caught her before she fell, his face turning savage. From the ridge above the mine, Judge Crow's voice echoed in the darkness like a verdict. Bring them to me. And Colt realized the shot hadn't come from the foreman. It had come from Crow himself. The trial without mercy. Colt carried Elena through a tunnel that smelled of rust and old sorrow. Her breathing was thin, but her eyes stayed open, stubborn as sunrise. I'm sorry, Colt muttered, pressing cloth to her wound. I should have. Elena's voice was a whisper. Don't apologize. Do something. They burst into the open behind the church, where the broken bell tower leaned like a tired old man. Colt kicked open the chapel door and laid Elena on the wooden floor. Dust rose. The place looked abandoned, but the air still felt listening. Colt paced, fury boiling. A judge that sells people. A town that watches. A church that can't even ring its own bell. Elena's fingers found his sleeve, weak but sure. The church isn't wood and stone. It's what people choose to stand for. Colt laughed bitterly. Then they chose wrong. Elena's eyes burned. Then choose right for them. Before Colt could answer, the door slammed open. Crow's men flooded in, guns drawn. Judge Crow stepped inside last, dustless and pleased. Well, Crow said, looking down at Elena, still breathing. Stubborn girl. Colt moved in front of her. Touch her and I'll... And you'll what? Crow cut in. Shoot me? With what? Your righteous anger. Crow gestured toward the altar. Two men dragged in the priest, Father Tomas, his face bruised, his collar torn. Elena choked out, Father. Father Tomas tried to stand tall, but his knees buckled. Elena, forgive me. I tried. Crow spoke to the room, like it was a courtroom. Here's what's going to happen. Rourke will kneel. The nun will renounce this foolish faith that made her defiant. And then I'll let them both live, barely. Elena struggled up on her elbows, pain twisting her face. You can't force faith out of someone. Crow leaned closer, smiling. No, but I can force doubt in. He turned to Colt. You, Gunslinger, tell her the truth. Tell her what you know about God. Colt's mouth tightened. His eyes flicked to Elena, who watched him like his answer mattered more than his life. Colt spoke slowly, as if each word cost him. I've seen kids cry themselves empty. I've seen men pray as they died. I've seen good people buried and bad people promoted. Crow spread his hands. There. Hear it? Heaven's silent. Elena's voice rose, trembling but fierce. Silence is an absence. Crow snapped his fingers. A man brought a pistol and placed it in Colt's hand. The weight of it was familiar. Too familiar. Crow's eyes glittered. Here's your test, Rourke. Shoot Father Tomas and I'll spare Elena. Elena's face went pale. No. Father Tomas looked at Colt, voice cracking. Son, don't let him make you a monster. Crow stepped back like a ringmaster. Go on. One pull and you save her. Isn't that what heroes do? Colt stared at the gun. His finger hovered. Elena whispered through tears. Colt, if you do this, you'll never believe you're worth saving again. Crow laughed. She thinks she can save you. Colt lifted the pistol. The room held its breath. And Colt aimed straight at Judge Crow. The bell rings again. Crow's smile vanished. You wouldn't. Colt's voice was low, steady, terrifying. You built your world on people believing they had no choices. Crow raised his own gun. Then make your choice. Elena's eyes widened. Colt, please. Colt didn't shoot. Not yet. Instead, he threw the pistol hard at the lantern near the door. Glass exploded. Flame jumped. Smoke filled the chapel in an instant, turning order into chaos. Men coughed, shouted, stumbled. Boots scraped. Guns fired blind. with splintered. Colt moved like he'd been born in smoke. He grabbed Elena, pulled her behind the altar, and spoke into her ear. "Can you stand?" Elena gritted her teeth. "Yes." Colt glanced at Father Tomas. "Can you move?" The priest nodded, trembling but alive. Crow's voice raged through the haze. "Kill them. All of them." Colt hissed, "Father, get the bell rope." Father Tomas blinked. "The bell is broken." Colt's eyes flashed. "So are we. Pull it anyway." Father Tomas crawled toward the tower access. Elena, half limping, clung to Colt's arm. Outside, townsfolk gathered, drawn by gunfire and smoke. They stood like ghosts, watching, afraid, familiar with doing nothing. Elena stepped into the doorway, blood on her habit, face pale, eyes blazing. She shouted to the crowd, voice cracking the night. "How many times will you watch evil and call it law?" A woman in the crowd whispered, "It's Crow. He'll kill us." Elena swallowed hard. "He already is." Slowly, "Every day you stay silent." Colt's hand found Elena's, steadying her. "They won't move," he muttered. "They never do." Elena stared at the people with tears in her eyes. "Then I'll believe for them until they can believe for themselves." Inside the tower, Father Tomas grabbed the rope with both hands and pulled. The bell didn't ring. It screamed, a harsh, broken sound, metal grinding. Cracked bronze cry out over the town like a wounded animal that still refused to die. Heads snapped up, faces changed. Something in that ugly sound awakened what comfort had buried. Crow stormed out of the chapel, smoke-stained and furious. "Stop that noise." He raised his pistol toward the tower, and for the first time, someone stepped forward from the crowd. Then another, a miner with cracked hands, lifted his chin. "No more." Crow sneered. "You'll hang for this." The miner's voice shook, but he didn't retreat. Better hanging than kneeling. More townspeople moved, surrounding Crow's men. A sheriff, who had hidden behind Crow's shadow, finally drew his badge into the lantern light. "Elijah Crow," the sheriff said, voice firm with shame, "you're under arrest for unlawful imprisonment, debt slavery, extortion, and attempted murder." Crow laughed like madness. "You can't arrest me. I am the law." Colt stepped forward, eyes cold. "No, you were a coward wearing law like a costume." Crow swung his gun toward Colt. Elena didn't flinch. She stepped between them. Colt grabbed her shoulder. "Elena!" She looked back at him, calm through pain. Faith isn't pretending bullets don't exist. It's choosing what you stand for even when they do. Crow's finger tightened. A shot rang out. Crow's gun flew from his hand, hit clean by the sheriff's bullet. Crow staggered, shocked, then tried to run. The crowd closed in. Justice didn't come down from the sky. It rose up from the people who finally chose to stop being afraid. Later, as dawn spilled gold over San Paloma, Elena sat on the church steps, bandaged and exhausted. Colt stood beside her, staring at the tower where the bell still hung crooked, still cracked, but now heard. Elena's voice was soft. "You asked if saving me with violence would make you something else." Colt swallowed. "And you asked if I'd ever choose right." Elena met his eyes. "Did I make you question your faith?" Colt exhaled, looking out over a town slowly waking up different. "I didn't know I had any left." Elena smiled faintly. "Then start with this. You can become Crow." Colt's jaw tightened, emotion threatening to show. "And you, after everything, do you still believe?" Elena looked at the broken bell, then at the people repairing the church door together. "I believe," she said, "not because the world is good, but because goodness can still be chosen." Colt nodded slowly, like a man learning a new language. Then a rider appeared at the edge of town, breathless and afraid. He called out, "Rourke! Crow's partners, they're coming. A whole gang. They want their judge back, and they're bringing fire." Colt's hand drifted toward his holster out of instinct. Elena rose, steady despite pain, eyes fixed on the horizon. "Then we ring the bell again," she said. "And this time we don't stand alone." And as dust clouds swelled in the distance like a war moving in, Colt realized the fight wasn't over. it was only beginning.